Hi everybody, my name is Nick Longo. I am with Longo Design's graphic design and branding agency here in Los Angeles, California. And I'm also a professor of graphic design and branding at California State University, Northridge. I'm here today to tell you a little bit about brand archetypes and how I use them in my business, how I use them with clients. I've been using it now for 3 to 4 years, and I've seen this incredible shift in how I can create brands for my clients and do it with this incredible laser focused ability to understand who the client is, but more importantly, who the consumer is and how we're going to attract them. So let's get into it. I'm going to tell you a little story about how I did this with a client, but first let's define it and see what exactly brand archetypes are. I call it my secret weapon when it comes to brand development. Every one of us is looking for something new and some creative ways to get better with what we do. I love creating brands for my clients, and once I found this feature and this kind of idea and process, it has made such a difference. And not only is it great because it's actually proven and it's driving results, but it helps the client along the way understand your process even better. So what is a brand archetype? But a brand archetype is real simple. It's a universal, recognizable, understood character that the audience will know. It's typically a role or something that the brand can embody, and then the attractiveness, that desire it has, really will attract the consumer that it's trying to go for. Brand archetypes give brands a character that makes them accessible and relatable to the audience. So we use things like the hero or the magician or the lover or the caregiver. These are all brand archetypes that we can use to help describe our company and hope it's going to attract the right person. Here's just an example. I'm going to go through all 12 that are the kind of the building blocks for that. There are many more than that. Once you do some research, you can find there's upwards of 30 different archetypes, but I'm going to just show you 12 that most people do use. The hero is a perfect example. You can see all the information and all of this kind of detailed stuff that the hero archetype is. They have a brand voice, they have a message, they have a mission, there's quotes you can use, and you can look at brands like Adidas, Nike, and FedEx. They are all the hero. They're there to save the day. They're honest, they're candid, they're brave. All these incredible things help you understand how to build the brand. So why do they matter? Well, they take that sales pitch and they take your value proposition and everything you're working for, and they transform them into a character that the people can't understand. It's a great way to stand out from a busy marketplace, particularly if you have a lot of people in that space and a lot of competitors. So how do you help your client stand out even more? Well, maybe you find a brand archetype that's not being used in that industry, and now you're attracting the potential buyer just because they love that. That's maybe who they are, but again, you're different from everybody else that's on the shelves next to them. You're also tapping into the customer's desires. Let's be honest. These brands use archetypes to forge that connection between an audience that needs your product. As a great example, think of the caregiver archetype. They will exude helpfulness, personable, supportive personalities. And a great example is like a company like Johnson & Johnson. We think of them as taking care of you. And that's exactly what the brand archetype is. So highlighting it and identifying it from the very beginning before you've created anything about that brand is an incredible head start. And you build everything off of that from the future. So how do you choose the brand archetype for your client? Or if you're the brand yourself and you're trying to figure it out, well, you can ask a few of these questions. What values guide your company? These are good questions to work with every stakeholder of the business. It's a great way to make sure a business is in line and they want to promote and project the same message out there. It's really confusing when you see a brand put out a lot of different messages. This helps them keep on one track and deliver the same message throughout that entire brand. What's the purpose of the brand's existence? What is it there for? What role will it play in the customer's life? How do you want to make these customers feel? That to me sometimes is one of the best ways to find out what that role or what that archetype is going to be. And what are your company's greatest strengths? All right. So it's worth mentioning as well that you should be thinking about how your archetype will fit in with the industry. You want to make sure maybe there's nothing clashing there. And like I said earlier, it could be something really great where you're something new. You're showing off a new brand archetype that none of the competitors know. but it's a great way to look at it. You want to keep your eye on the competition, like I said, and see what archetypes they're already using. And if there's an archetype that's being overly used in a particular industry, that's maybe a great sign that you want to try something totally different and totally opposite. So a lot of you might have seen, this is probably the most common wheel that you see that kind of understands and shows off brand archetypes. And this is great because you can look right at it and say, okay, the magician, that's Disney, right? The sage, that's Audi. I love the innocent. That's a really one to think of. And you can think of Dove. That's a perfect example of it. Then you have the caregiver, even something like Heinz. Another great one to think of is the rebel. Think of Virgin Airlines. Just think of Virgin in general. Everything they do is kind of rebellious, right? So they play that role in everything they do. And now they're connecting as great as they can with their actual consumer. So let's go over the 12 that we're gonna start off with here. Again, I mentioned earlier, when you look at some reference down the road, or if you do a little bit of research on your own, you'll find that there's upwards of 30 plus different ones. But the core ones are here. We've got the Outlaw. They're revolutionary, right? Rules are made to be broken. That's their belief. So when you find out all this great information about that archetype, you could build the brand based on this. Virgin, Harley Davidson, Diesel. These are all brands that do something a little bit off the beaten path, correct? Next up, the magician. You can think of Coca-Cola, Disney, Dyson. These are perfect ones. So they can make it happen. There's power in that. They have a brand voice that's informed, that's reassuring, right? You build a trust with these brands. And there's a great line that you can use in this brand message thing. Tomorrow is brighter than today, and all your dreams can come true if you believe. So when you look again at all of this great information, these are the things that you can pull from and use in your discovery. You can use in the brand building with the client, and they'll just love this because they'll just eat it all up. It's the words and the knowledge they really want to know, and they really need your help with. We looked at the hero earlier. Again, they have this: where there's a will, there's a way. So all these real neat things you can pull from and kind of see. Next up is the lover, right? They have a brand voice that's sensual, it's empathetic, it's soothing, right? Great brands like Chanel, Victoria's Secret, these all play that role, right? I think it's almost common knowledge, and it's just neat to see how this is defined. The jester is a funny one. You can think of like M&M's or even Old Spice. They've really become the jester, right? They make fun of things. They have a really great sense of humor. They're very playful and optimistic and fun-loving. So all these things become the traits of maybe who that brand might be. The Everyman, this is a good one too. They're friendly, they're humble, very authentic. So you can think of brands like IKEA, maybe even Target as well. These all have that same kind of idea and archetype. Next up is the caregiver. UNICEF, Tom's, that's a great one, right? Everything you think they do, they're taking care of people. They're giving back, right? Love your neighbor as yourself. So beautiful stuff here to kind of build a brand on if that's what you're looking for. The ruler. This is a good one as well. Think of Mercedes-Benz. Rolex is a perfect one for that. They're commanding, they're refined, all these things that kind of help the building blocks of who that brand is. The creator is a beautiful one as well. Anything artistic, anything like Apple, Lego, Adobe. They're very inspiring, they're very daring, and they could be provocative at the same time. If it can be imagined, it can be created. So when you have these really great statements that go along with the archetype, these are the things you can use describing to your client that these are the words, these are the statements, this is the brand voice we're going to use throughout the brand, on packaging, in social media, in digital, anywhere that brand lives. Now you have the innocent, like we said, Dove, Aveeno. These are those brands that are, life is simple and simplicity is elegant, optimistic, honest, humble. Those brands, if these answer some of those questions we looked at earlier, then this is the kind of archetype to look for. So you can see how those questions we asked a while back, when you find if the brand says that their goal is to just be authentic, optimistic, honest, then maybe the innocent is the right one for them. Then you have the sage. This is all about knowledge, being guided. Look at Google, BBC. These are brands that have that truth will set you free kind of idea. This is where, knowledge, like I said earlier, anything like this can be helpful. It's someone that will be guiding you along the way. If that is the brand that you are building, then the sage could be your archetype. The explorer is a great one too. This is so neat. Think of Jeep, Patagonia, North Face. These are all amazing. Don't fence me in. We're gonna remember that line. We're going to show that in the example I'm going to talk to you about later on. It's exciting. They're fearless. They're daring. They're willing to take that chance. And if that's the brand that you're trying to build, Explorer could be your actual archetype. And then you pull from all this rebellious kind of style, things that they're very daring and fearless about. So how have I used brand archetypes in client pitches? I'm going to show you one that we just finished about a year and a half, 2 years ago. And it was probably one of the most extensive projects we've ever got to work on. But the archetypes were the building blocks. They were the way for me to kind of understand not only how to build this, but at the same time, you have to sell this to your client as you're building it. And when you have all the right tools and you have all this incredible stuff and data to back it up, well, everyone wins. So a few years ago, I got the chance to redesign and refresh the Die Hard brand for Sears. They were getting ready to sell it off and basically put it out there in the market for another brand to create. But in doing that, they wanted to make sure they had refreshed it and used all the knowledge of their past to kind of understand what they were going to do. So when we looked at the brand promise, we had a few keywords that we were already building. We wanted it to be full of energy. We wanted to show off performance, but we also wanted to look at that die-hard consumer. Loyalty was a big thing with their customers. When we looked and saw why people chose Die Hard, they were loyalists. These were people that wanted to buy something, they wanted to be the first to have it, and they wanted to kind of refer it to friends. There was something about brand loyalty that really stood out with them. So we had this down. We knew Power Ahead was going to be our tagline. So what did I do? I went and looked through the archetypes, and I found 4 that I really thought were kind of a great way to look at, like, imagine if you were putting ingredients into a recipe. These were the 4 that I really thought Die Hard could use and it would work perfectly. We went with the loyalist, we went with the adventure seeker, we went with the maverick. That's one of my favorites because it really is that one if you are looking for the consumer that really wants to break the rules. And then the competitor. We knew the people that were buying these products were out there doing all kinds of great extreme sports and being very adventurous. So that competitor, adventure, loyalist kind of mix between all of these was really who we were looking for and how we were going to do it. So these were the takeaways I found before building the brand that really showed kind of what these archetypes were all about. What would they say? What would they do? And what are the things we're going to use to kind of align? So they love to activate empowerment. That was a huge thing and a great surprise to find. They crave new experiences. So if that consumer is looking for new things, how might you show that off in graphics? How might you show that off in your editorial? How you might show that in social media? That's how you started. You got a great like secret weapon insight on how to trigger that particular audience. How do you push boundaries? So will graphics and things that you use on the packaging help show that off as well? Will they gravitate to that if they see it? I love that line again too. Don't fence me in. That's what we found this archetype loves. So do we want to show things that maybe break out of the norm? Do we want to see like something that's like harnessing power and then there's this breakthrough? They want to plunge into the unknown. That was a really neat one as well. And they want to be ahead of the mainstream. So you can see all of these are quite different, but there is a common thread that just shows someone that really wants to be first. Someone wants to be out there and test the marketplace, test a product out first, and they're not afraid to be that first person. So we took all those things into consideration. And I went to the drawing board. This is where I started kind of putting all kinds of things throughout the office. Inspiration, things that were inspired and came from a lot of this data that we found about the brand archetypes. So you can see I'm even starting to look at texture. I'm starting to look at color choices. I'm starting to look at the visuals. What will we use when we are trying to show who that consumer is? What are we thinking about how the packaging is going to start to look? Who is that end consumer that will be buying this product? What do they look like? What are the things that they will gravitate to? And then what are the products they might buy? Are there expansions of this line that can be in like phone cases and things that are very rugged? So we're thinking all these different things as we're developing the brand. So I'm getting this idea and I was thinking of this like breakthrough idea of like, do we do something that kind of shows everything about this brand is pushing through boundaries and breaking through? So we had a really great inspiration ready to go. And then I'm even looking back at old advertisements, what worked for Die Hard in the past, and we're trying to kind of be inspired by that as well. So the result was this. We came up with this new emblem. Die Hard had never had an icon or a symbolic image like this that represented the brand without the full name of Die Hard. And what we loved about this is the blue inside kind of represents the energy and the electricity and all that stuff that we talked about when we were looking at our mission for the brand. And then we have this thing where it strikes through the D and it's almost intersecting it, but it's, again, a power that's surging upward. There's something very optimistic about this. There's something very rule-breaking about it, and we were onto something. We really thought this was the way to go. So we developed this breakthrough graphic that we did in all these different colors, because we had 4 lines that we knew the brand was going to represent. So we just gave them different color treatments. But you can see it gives you this idea that there was this like roaring energy ready to go, and it broke through some service, and now you have this energy, and it's power ahead, our tagline, in a graphic element just like this. So we were really excited to see how this would start looking, and you can see how the brand and the packaging started to develop. We kept all of those things in mind. That breakthrough graphic comes through right behind the product photography. So again, we're connecting it to the brand and the image and the product that they're buying. And once this kind of takes its way and starts showing up on all the products and everything that we do for packaging, you can see we're starting a consistent lineup, and it's really working nicely. Then we even got into point of purchase sale. How would this look in the actual store? And in addition, what we found were unique things. Archetypes can also help you craft your brand's voice. And like I said earlier, how does the brand talk? If the brand could talk as a spokesperson, particularly on commercial, advertising, and social media, how would they talk? What's the brand's ethos? What does it believe in? What will it fight for? And then what's the brand's mission? That could even be a mission statement that you help create from all that great data you found on Brand Archetypes. And then what's their motto? You know, Power Ahead was this perfect one, and it really summed up everything we found in there about that groundbreaking, rule-breaking person that we thought would be a perfect person for that brand. So there are numerous ways you can find all this stuff on Brand Archetypes. You could do a ton of great searching. Google it. You'll find incredible resources online. Or if you really want to take it to the next level, the book I used is called The Archetypes of Branding. You can find it anywhere books are sold. It's a really great resource. I love it because it's not just a book, it's a workbook. It's something I can go to as a reference guide and find all the stuff I'm going to do to make sure that that is working. So that's my presentation on Brand Archetypes. I hope you guys enjoyed it. We're going to do some Q&A now, but I really thank you for joining us. You can find me again at Longo Designs on IG. Follow me on Instagram. Follow me at LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you guys. Take care.